Hey, I'm Dr. Rich. In this video, I'm going to show you how I take a secondary impression for a denture. It's going to be a full upper denture. So now let's zoom you around to a close-up. So this is not a new denture. This is a patient that I'm redoing. Well, not redoing. I made him an immediate denture about 7 years ago, and now he wants a new denture. So last time I saw him, I took a alginate impression, sent it to the lab, and this is what they send me back. So here's the model, it's just a stone model. So here's the model, just a stone model, and on it, a custom tray. So this is just a hard acrylic. I think this is like a triad material, so it's like a light cured stuff. So the first thing I like to do once I get this back from the lab is put some adhesive on the tray. Let's zoom you guys in so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, so this is just Primo brand. It's my my dental supplier. This is like their house brand. Stuck in there. There we go. Looks like it leaked a little bit. Oh man, it all leaked. Let me see if I have another jar of it. That sucks. Alright, so I found a new jar of tray adhesive. So let's paint this on. And this is the stuff that allows the impression material to stick to this acrylic. So sometimes the lab will put a bunch of perforations in this tray too, basically just little holes to help it stick. But I find a lot of times, especially for a denture, there's no big undercuts or something that'll get stuck in the mouth, like possibly an impression with that still has a lot of teeth, that the adhesive is sufficient. And you also want to paint it around the edges, because I'm going to be border molding this today. So basically there's going to be impression material stuck to the edge of the tray all around, so I want to make sure it sticks well. Okay, so I usually like to do this before the patient gets here, at least a half an hour, just to give it enough time to tack up. This stuff's kind of like a contact cement. It'll sets up, it never sets completely, just leaves, once it dries a little bit, makes it a little sticky, and so the impression material will stick. Alright, let's go to the mouth next. Alright, here's the tray, and then here's the patient's old immediate denture. As you can see, it cracked in half. Usually that happens after the extractions. Your jaw shrinks, and what will happen is that the palate part doesn't shrink, but the jaws, the ridges do. And there's a view of the lowers that we're going to be pulling to in a separate video. I'll leave a link to that up on the card. So the first thing I do is I'll put 3 dollops of heavy body material on my tray. This material is just there to act as a spacer. I'll sit it in the mouth and I won't press it down hard. I'll just lightly put it in so there's enough space between the tray and the gums so that we can take the impression with some wash material at the end. And you can also, if you don't feel like doing it this way, you can just ask the lab to make you some tissue stops when they make the tray. Let me just dry that off a little bit. So now we start the border molding, and again I'm using that same heavy body fast set material. This is just like it's a vinyl polysiloxane, and this is just the generic one my dental supply company sells. And so I tend to do it in 3 parts. So I'll do one side, put it in the mouth, and then do some border molding just on that side and in the center. Border, I am just stretching the person's cheek, trying to get the edges of the, get the muscle attachment. So I want to capture an impression of the immovable part of the gums, but not the movable part of the gums. Because if you don't do border molding properly, you end up having overextended edges. The border is going to be overextended. Denture is going to come loose when the patient speaks, chews, moves their mouth around. Do the same thing on the other side, and it's tricky sometimes to get it in there without disturbing it, but it also will depend on the patient. Some people have very flexible cheeks. They can open really wide, and it's great to work on them. This person, a great guy, but his cheeks, he's got very tight muscles in his cheeks, so it's not that easy. And then the last step I'll do is the posterior. So this is the post-dam area. I'm trying to capture where the hard palate meets the soft palate. So this one, I don't do any border molding. I just ask the patient to pinch their nose and blow. What that causes is the soft palate in the back of their mouth to get pushed down, and it pushes the material out of the way. Then we just let it set up, and let's remove it. And now at this point, I'm actually getting some good suction. It's not coming out that easily. So that's a good sign that we're going to have a nice finish product. So let's take, the final step is a wash step. I'm using same type of material, vinyl polysiloxane. I'm just using a light body material because I don't want this to distort anything I've done. So this stuff is pretty runny. It'll ooze out of the way for me while I'm making the impression. And I'm just taking a spatula to spread it out a little bit to get a little bit more even coverage, get it up on the edges, on the borders. And again, back in the mouth, try not to make a mess. Beards and mustaches make it much more difficult too. And I want to press this firmly in place. So remember, I already have those tissue stops on the ridge to keep it from going too far in. And then I'm just going through all my border molding motions, tugging on each cheek you want to do this before the material starts to set up too much so that it can be displaced. And then lastly, also have the person pinch their nose and blow a few times. And now we just got to let it set up. I will also have the person, as part of the border molding, have them open and close pretty big. And now the impression material is set up, and it's in there pretty well. We got some really good suction. So that tells me we're going to have a very well-fitting denture once we're all said and done. All right, so thank you guys all so much for watching. I really appreciate this. Any questions or comments about anything I've done, please leave them down below, and we'll see you in the next video.